Hello YouTube artist, I'm Kelly Hernig and welcome to In the Studio. Today we're going to be color mixing this color cube card. Isn't it beautiful? Pinks, brown, and an ugly green. You know I'm all about that green. Let's go mix. Today we're going to do another color cube card by Sarah Renae Clark, and this is number 038. I just really like these colors. I like this pink with like this purpley chocolate and then this really ugly yellow green. You know I like that green. And then I thought it would be nice to see what kind of mixes we can get. I am using, this is my little sample that we're gonna paint after we figure out the colors. I am using a handmade journal by Deanna off of Etsy. This is the one with Fabriano Artistico paper. I'm also using some masking fluid today. It is the Schmincke masking fluid. And I like this one because of the applicator here. You can squirt it directly from there, but today I'm using really fine lines. When you are using the masking fluid, sometimes you have to take a pin and stick it down there to break the seal. Like I had to do that today, but that's probably the first time in about, I don't know, 6 months I've had to do that. So it usually stays pretty good. This is the brush that I'm going to be using. It is just a really fine line. See the little point on it? And this is just a kid's brush. I buy these in a pack of like 6 and they last forever. When you're done with masking fluid, you want to put a little bit of soap on your hands and just wash the tip and make sure that you get it really thoroughly out of there. You do not want to use your good brushes for masking fluid. Make sure that you're using a really inexpensive brush because it will ruin your bristles. I am using my Studio palette, my 2024 Studio palette for the colors. I'm also using the davinci Casino number 2 quill brush. It's one of my favorite brushes and I just like it because it holds a lot of water and a lot of color at the same time. So let's get started. For the masking fluid, you can see that I'm using the green brush to thin it to thin consistency. So I'm dipping into the pile and then really just working it into the brush, letting the big globules kind of work it in so that it's not a giant ball that I'm trying to put down. And then I will roll the brush tip around to kind of give it back to the point, and then I will go and apply it to the flower. You can see that I do one direction first and then I did the other direction. I just find it easier to let that first layer dry before I do the second one over it. When you're doing the circles, make sure that you're not putting giant blobs on there because it can take a while to dry because it doesn't always dry real easy if it's a big ball of the masking fluid. So I try to do thinner coats almost always whenever I'm applying masking fluid. We're going to start by first mixing the colors and then we'll plop them on there as we find the right mixes. I've got my swatch card in front of me here, so I'm going to stick that here so we can work on that. And pink is first. Let's start with the reds. I have perylene maroon and I have alizarin gold. I also have an orange here, but then I have red tint as well over here. So let's have some fun and see what the perylene maroon will do first. It's my darkest red. And we're going to add a little bit of buff titanium to that. So let me get a couple mixes here because I know I want to mix this with several colors. When I am trying to figure out colors, I'm looking at the card and saying, what do I see? So to me, I kind of see a corally pink, which is why I'm going to try this with buff first. You can see it took the color right out of it. So more water. You can see it's way too red. So let me go with perylene maroon and apricot. There we go. It adds a little more color to it than the buff. The buff kind of neutralizes it, but the perylene, the apricot gives a little bit of color to it. Again, more water. Let's see how that one looks. You can see it's got a little more color to it. Let's go a little more water. I'm going to try it with some Naples yellow as well. You can see they're all kind of similar. I actually like the first mix first with the buff the most. See that? I like that one too. So that was more water with the apricot. All right, let's try another mix of the red tint. So the red tint is, this is the alizarin gold. And then this is the red tint. I just want to mix a little bit of that in there. A little bit of water. See how it's a little clearer color because it doesn't start out as dark. That looks nice. Now I want to show you red tint by itself, but whenever I'm mixing like this, I don't like to use a color by itself. The whole point of this is to mix and to learn my colors. See how red tint is such a beautiful color? But you see how that color adds just a little bit of like orange to it. I love that. I want to try red tint now plus apricot. See what that does to it. Oh, it lightened it just a bit. See that? Choices. Okay, so for this darkest color here, I'm going to use the perylene maroon. And the apricot. I think I like that one the best, and it was a lot more water. More apricot. You can see this one is really quite pretty, but I don't know that it's as pink as it is. It looks pinker on that paper above me. This is different paper, so let me see that. I'm going to add just a touch of red tint to that pile. There we go. Just paint right over it there. That gives me a little more body. I like that better. Okay, now we need more of that candy-like pink. So that was red tint and apricot. Red tint, apricot. And you can see they've got two totally different colorations, which is great. And then we've got that real pale pink. I want to try the alizarin gold and buff titanium, or Titan buff on this palette. And you can see it's too coral. So I'm going to go to perylene maroon and some of that buff. Let's have a look at that. Nope. Let's go with red tint and buff. Oh yeah, that's pretty. See how it just kind of dulled it just a little bit, but I need more water because that's a very light tone. Even more water. Have a look at that. That's pretty good right there. When mixing colors, you can't always exactly mix it. I just want to come close to it. So for here, I'm really looking at the tone. You know, it's a really light tone, which means a lot of water, barely any color. And it's really an exercise of learning about your colors. I'm going to splash. That looks pretty good. Pretty happy with that. So now we have to mix this brown. And you can see this brown has, to me, it has like a reddish cast or a purplish cast. It doesn't really look like a nice deep dark brown. Think of like tree bark or anything like that. I see a little bit of red or purple in it. So I'm going to start off with sepia. That is my brown on my palette. And I'm going to touch a little bit of apricot into it. Just want to see what that's going to do. And you can see it kind of made it like a mocha-ish chocolate, mocha brown. It has kind of a dusty side to it as well. So let me go into sepia. Let me touch just a little bit of perylene maroon to it. I just want to see what happens. Too much maroon. I need more sepia. I think that's too dark. It's pretty good, but it's a little too dark for it. So let me go into sepia and Naples and see what that does. Naples is a bright yellow. Should gray it quite nice. Oh yeah. Look at that one. That's pretty. Let's go totally different and go to Artemis, which is a purple. And let's go to this yellow green I have here. It's called yellow gray. You can see what the color looks like right there. And let's see what these two mix up. Remember, I see a little bit of red in it. I think that's a little too purple. Yes, just a touch. So let's touch a little bit of maroon to that. Forgot which one I just mixed. A little too red. Okay. I want to try sepia plus apricot. Apricot has that little touch of orange, which might give me just enough in there. Not sure. Okay, I'm going to choose the sepia plus perylene maroon. I really like that touch of red in there. And I needed more sepia. I saw too much red in that one. So let's have a look. That's quite nice. It looks a little dark there. Let's see. It's okay. I'll let that just dry for a couple seconds before I splash it. And now we've got this ugly greenish yellow. And you know I love that color, so let's mix it with, I want to check out just first yellow gray and see what that is like. You can see it's too green, so let's try this. Let's try that yellow gray plus a touch of lavender. Lavender should dull it just a little bit because yellow and purple are across from the color wheel. You can see it turned it really, really green there. Too green. Okay, so let's try that yellow gray plus a little bit of raw sienna. Raw sienna should take it to the yellow side. You saw that, really, it's a nice shift right there. That's pretty nice. I want to try the yellow gray plus Naples. See what that does. So you see they're all really close. It's just how you see the color. Now I want to go totally weird and let's try Mother Green. It's Joyce's Mother's Green here. And Apricot. I'm picking the apricot because it has a little bit of orange into it. Ooh, look what it did to it. See how ugly that became? And ugly is a good thing in my book. So I would need a little bit more apricot. Ooh, that's a pretty color. Let's try a little bit more apricot. That's quite nice. Let's touch, I bet, a little bit of raw sienna in there and see what that does. Okay. I liked my very first color here, which was yellow gray. So I'm going to do yellow gray plus a little bit of raw sienna, and I need to splash this before I go any further. Okay, yellow gray. Let's do a touch of raw sienna and just a touch of lavender to dull it. Let's see what happens there. Okay, like that. I love when I find an ugly color like this because this is a beautiful color to use for nature outside. Pretty excited about that. Look at the colors so far. That's pretty good matching, I'd say. I really like the vibrancy of that one. It's not quite as bright as this one, so we'll try to adjust it as we go to paint. Okay, I want to do that really light pink first. I think that was perylene maroon and Titan buff. Or sorry, it was red tint and Titan buff. The masking fluid is dry. You can tell by it's not sticky. When it's still wet, it feels like it will come off on your hand, like you can actually pull it up. But this is, it's not tacky, it's nothing. It just feels like almost a dry rubber band or a rubber band. So that's how you know that it's dry. You know too because it's not cool. If it's cool to the touch, that means that it's still wet. So this is very dry. And it almost kind of resists it. That's what it looks like here. Okay, I'm going to go into that brighter color. I'm going to touch a little bit of that red tint and the alizarin gold. Just want to make it nice and bright in a couple of areas. I want to splash that while it's wet. For the top one, I want to use the more medium, that one there. So I think that was the alizarin gold and the neutral, I believe. Just water on my brush now. I'm trying to see, like, do I need a little lighter, another light coat there? Because remember, I want the white lines to show. So I'm just adding some of that light color again over it. Oh, my brown was sepia and maroon. I'm going to add a touch of lavender in there to just mute it down just a little bit. There we go. I want it a little softer for this flowers over here. You can tell that's really dark. I have to remember, Kelly, add water. I just take my brush with some water now, add little dots, and then lift a little. Okay, now with the leaves, that is this, I want to use this green color. Yellow gray, raw sienna, and a touch of lavender to dull it. Just leaving a little white line just for a little bit of design there. Gonna add, I've got this nice dark green. I'm just gonna come in and plop some of that in there. With that same color, touch a little bit of the stem color into it. That looks nice. Okay, I'm going to dry this because I want to add a deeper red up here. See how intense that red is? So I want to get it that much brighter, or should I say more opaque. Right now it's very light. Whenever you blow dry your paper, always make sure that it comes back to room temperature, because if I was to put it down while this is still warm from the blow dryer, what's going to happen is it will just sink into the paper right away and not let you be able to move it. So always remember to just let it cool for a couple seconds before you go back to painting. I'm going to use red tint and the alizarin gold for this. Ooh, that's a pretty color. A little more red tint on there. Just water on my brush now. I want to smooth this one out. Just water. I'm softening the edges here. Okay, I'm looking at the greenery here. I want to add just a little bit more dark where it adds that little, I have a little triangle there. Now you can see how the masking fluid really kind of resisted the water. You can pull it up with your finger, so you can just scrape right next to it with your finger and pull it off, but they also make a rubber cement eraser that pulls it off as well. I like using this instead of my fingers just because I don't want my fingers, you know, they can become damp and then the next thing you know is I'm lifting my watercolor. So that's why I always just use the eraser. What I really like about this masking fluid is it is super easy to apply really thin lines, and I have not found a masking fluid like this, which is why I highly recommend this Schmincke brand. And there you go. You can see how it really left the lines really pretty, left the dots nice and white. And that's why I left the white lines here in the leaves too, so that everything has a little bit of white in it. So again, that was Color Cube card 038. And I'm really happy with the way the palette turned out. Hope you enjoyed it. If you were inspired by today's Color Cube card, please like, comment, or subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.